It's gone on way too long.
Oh, yeah. Let's go. Okay, hello.
I can keep going, though. That was fun.
I may edit that. I may not. I may leave that in. I think that was strong.
I'm
Always
sweaty.
leave it in.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Cinemavino. We're already 1 minute into this podcast. So this is part 3 of our Halloween series. We're welcoming back Sean Jordan for this particular episode. And next one, he is back. Hope you had a good anniversary celebration.
Oh, I was going to ask where I went last week. But
Yeah, we just cut to the chase on that one.
Yeah. He was sitting at home putting on the old Cisco CD.
that's right.
Yeah, we figure honesty is the best policy. It's like, or as George Carlin said, dishonesty is the second best policy. So, yeah. We're going to talk about Fright Night. This is a Travis all-time favorite movie.
Yes.
It's a cult classic. And it should be a Halloween staple for a lot of people. If it's not, it should be.
Yeah.
So, a little background on this film. It came out in 1985, August 2nd, which is my wife's birthday.
Oh.
Yeah. Stars Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge, which is a great name for a vampire, I think. So yeah, he's a handsome, suave vampire. Moves into suburbia next door to a horror geek named Charlie Brewster, as played by William Ragsdale. Ragsdale figures out pretty quickly that a vampire has moved in next door when they start doing all sorts of vampire shit. And so he determines to expose Dandridge, but he struggles to do so. So he turns to a horror TV host named Peter Vincent, as played by Roddy McDowall, who is a veteran character actor who did all kinds of stuff. A lot of people might know him from Planet of the Apes. He was one of the apes.
Was he Dr. Zaius? No.
He was... No, I don't think he was. He was one of the guys, though.
Yeah.
I didn't recognize him because he wasn't dressed as an ape.
Exactly. It's a little tricky.
I would watch this entire film again if everybody
If he
were
was,
apes.
Yeah.
yeah.
Ooh.
That's true of most films, though.
Ape Fright Night.
Yeah, I would watch like The Firm, but everybody's apes.
Yeah.
So this film grossed $26 million at the box office. So it was a decent sized hit, but it's since got a lot bigger on home video.
It was the second biggest horror movie that year after Freddy 2. Whatever
yeah.
the second
Nice.
Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah.
Part 2, yeah. So, and I'll let Travis talk about that. It does feature like a lot of the classic vampire powers and abilities and weaknesses and stuff. And vampires are a big thing for Trav. And so I'll let him discuss that. But first we'll start with Tay. What do you think? And have you seen it before?
Yeah, so I think I had said that I hadn't seen these movies before.
I think I had you watch it.
Yeah,
I think we watched it.
And it was like after I had seen it, I was like, you know what? Damn it, I have watched this. But it was great to revisit it. But I don't remember much of it. Most likely was alcohol-induced watching, which this one was as well. I actually really fucking liked this film. I didn't really know what to expect, but then after watching it, I'm like, oh, I kind of remember some of these scenes. But I love a film, and again, I'm sure, and I never know what these films were going for in 1985.
Yeah.
Was it trying to be dead serious? Was it like, this is a horror film? Or, added with comedy to it. I never know what they were trying to go for.
I think there was some comedy.
Yes.
Yeah, it was like, his little friend Evil,
Evil Ed.
that motherfucker maybe ruined the film for me.
Yeah.
It was
He's
like,
so terrible.
I know. I was like, God damn. I was like, that might be the only negative thing is that like that kid was just over the top, and I don't know if he was supposed to be there to like hate, to be like, oh man, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
You know, I hope he gets his comeuppance. But I did love Darcy. Or Marcy from
Married with Children.
Yeah, I'm glad that she was in it. I actually, again, I loved the whole thing. They didn't waste any fucking time. They jumped into it. I did love all the vampire powers, everything. There were some of the scenes were very, very long. I did watch this with my partner. Her name is Bailey. But I did watch it, and it was an hour 45-minute film.
Yeah.
There were some scenes that made it feel like it was a 2 hour and 45-minute film.
Which ones were long? You said that over text, and I was like, all right, sweet.
So the one that I thought was super long was when he was already invited into the house, and he came in, and when he first was like, hey, Charlie, you got to stop coming to my house. As I, get it out. He was like, no, I'm not doing that. He's like, okay, well, I'm going to kill you. And so then he like puts him out the window. And that's when and that's when you first see his face. And look, I get it. You want to show it everything. You want to show it. But I'm like, how many times is he going to look at his face and then cut back to Charlie, who's near the window? Oh, we're going back to the face. And I was like, I get it. The makeup was awesome.
Yeah,
that's why I was like,
where they did the transition.
what is happening right now? So that kind of went on for a little too long. The alleyway scene kind of, to me, went on where Evil finally got his comeuppance, or so he thought. And then it was the scene, which, again, I don't know how woke this scene was. It was when, what was the vampire's name?
Jerry.
Dandridge. Kind of was, or in the club, in the club, when he was putting the moves on that she's in high school.
Yeah.
And he was grabbing her booty cheeks. I was like, okay, hold on. And everyone's okay with this. But then when they got back to his house for like the final scene and everything, that seemed to drag on for a while. Where it was like, hey, she's back here. I love her. I'm going, I want her, to be mine forever. I was like, oh my God. It was like, so, and it was probably just those two scenes, really.
Okay.
But it was like, maybe 3.
Her hair grew so much.
And I know. I was like, wait a minute. So you get bit and like your hair just grows?
Yeah.
And it was like,
It's
Okay,
like the
first of
peanut
all,
butter
vampire
solution.
seduction.
Sign me up.
yeah.
Vampire seduction on a dance floor gives you hair boners.
Yeah.
And also increases your bust size
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and your makeup.
Hashtag hair
Yes.
boners.
And,
Yeah. But I did love it. I don't know. There's just overall that film was just absolutely phenomenal. There's a few things to nitpick, but it's 1985 and it was a great. I wasn't a huge fan of the acting of his minion.
Oh, I love that though. The sidekick.
Oh
Billy?
my God. I didn't mind it, but he needed to be in it.
Kid.
What are you doing here, kid?
And like how he always like cut him off or would get right behind him or right next to him and kind of gave the look. I'm like,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if this guy's a Catholic priest or not, but like you can't give people those eyes, man. I was like, them diddling eyes. And I was like, I was like, you can't, because every time he just got so close to him, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was the 80s. Eye contact was different back then.
Yeah.
Diddling eyes were a thing.
Yeah.
But that was just standard.
Yeah. But I mean, and I guess Travis, I'll have to refer to you later, but what was he? Was he a vampire? His minion?
No, he was a
Familiar, wasn't he?
thrall.
Yeah, or they never exactly say, and it was only in like some like a D&D third-party book later that I was like, oh, they
Because he came back to
made
life.
up something for what he is. He was just kind of, because I guess he was had been alive the whole time when the painting of Amy was done before, because Dandridge was like, oh, she looks just like the other gal. Do you remember? And he was like, oh yeah, I do. So whatever he is, he's a daytime servant that's
Well,
not
it's usually
alive.
really common for vampires to have like a human assistant that's been like seduced. I mean, that's pretty common. That from like Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Renfield.
Yeah, Renfield was like the first one that went over there, and then he came back crazy and was like, I love Dracula.
But it's rare that you see one that they've had for like years.
Well, and he
So
had enhanced
sometimes-
powers, so he was filled with green ooze apparently.
Yeah. It was like he had strength, he had green ooze, and so it was like, what was he?
What are you?
Yeah.
But besides that, the film was awesome.
All I can think of is that sometimes vampires give like their minions blood from them, so they're people. So I guess that dude is just super old.
That's how they
and
keep
had,
him on
like
retainer.
dead.
Yeah.
And whatever taking a white picket fence to the heart did, undid that.
Yeah.
No clue.
Yeah.
Sean, what do you think?
The thing that really sticks out to me for this era specifically was the use of practical effects.
I love it.
Yeah.
So cool. Like the
love that.
transitions to being a vampire when Evil Ed turns into a vampire and then turns back, like, and kind of like melts back into a human.
Yeah.
So cool. Just like, everything from like the faces melting and like the fingers just disintegrating down to bone and just like bones being all that's left and just like scattering across the floor. Super awesome.
So far, all of our Halloween movies have been big on practical effects.
Yes.
Tremors,
Yeah.
Aliens, and this. It's like,
And 13 Ghosts.
Yeah.
We'll get to that.
and it's like we love our Halloween movies to have practical effects.
Yeah. This reminded me a lot of American Werewolf in London,
Oh yeah.
which the transitions to werewolf in that movie were so cool for the time that it was like this amazing practical effects. This reminded me a lot of that with like the fingers extending and becoming longer. I mean, less cool was like the weird like extra digit finger on the vampire, on Jerry.
Yeah.
Like that was uncomfortable because he just sort of had like extra long fingers that just moved around.
It's a bit much.
Yeah.
It was a lot.
It's where the movie went digital.
Jeez. And the American Werewolf on London is exactly what I thought of when I thought of Ed after he got staked and
Yeah.
we're doing
Yeah,
that whole,
yeah.
like again, that was a long scene, but it seems like every time they do that, because they spent $1 million on special effects or practical effects for the vampires on this, which was obviously in '85, a big deal. So they were like really wanting to showcase all that, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't remember what year American Werewolf in London came out.
81, 82, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Early, before this, for sure.
Yeah, I mean that was like the first, like that was the big one. But yeah, this one really great use of practical effects, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
Like Taylor said, it kind of dragged on a little bit. You know, there were some scenes that probably went way too long. The amount of smoke that came out of that gun,
I know exactly. Yes.
That prop gun.
Filled the room up.
Yeah.
it created a smoke screen for the
Yeah.
assistant guy.
Yeah.
Just like they shot him like 6 times.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's just this wall of smoke now
Yeah.
for no reason. And then he just sort of walks through it and they're like, oh, I can't believe it. It's like, how smoky is this gun?
Yeah. You got to think the director's like, more smoke. No, more smoke.
Have you ever seen a gun? More smoke.
Directed by Tom Holland, by the way.
Who went
saw
on to
that.
play Spider-Man later.
Yeah. not Tom Holland, but
Yeah.
yeah.
And the main character, the guy, he's someone who went on to do absolutely nothing. I don't know if you looked at his IMDb at
William
all,
Ragsdale.
but I don't think he was in anything at all.
He was in the second Fright Night, and I recognized him from one or two other things.
You talk about the remake, the 2006 remake?
No. There was one in 1989. They did a sequel to this.
Was it called Fright Nights?
Nope, Fright Night Part 2. And it had Roddy McDowall and William Ragsdale. Both came back. I think they were the only two.
Well, and I do think a lot of the actors from this movie came back in the remake, the 2006.
They pop up.
2006, 2011.
Yeah.
No, it was 20. Might have been 2011. But yeah, it was Chris Sarandon came back, and maybe
Yeah.
I don't know who else.
Well, and I definitely saw that remake. Not memorable. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah.
I was going to say that I have it written down here that Evil Ed is one of the most obnoxious sidekicks in horror movie
He's
history.
the worst.
And I had that it also has terrific creature effects for the budget and for the era. So we're of one mind on that.
Yeah.
Apparently, a direct sequel to this movie is now being made. So, with the same original director,
Is now being made?
is currently being made.
Yeah, well, they were going to make a third one, but it's unclear if that's actually happening now. I know the director is doing a comic book, which is coming out next month. So
Tom Holland is?
Yeah, Tom Holland. This might be his script for it. It's coming out next month, but I don't know if he's actually going to be. I know the rights reverted to him in like 2019, 2020.
Yeah.
And he was going to try to do something.
Neat.
No clue.
So, Travis, as a vampire fan, how closely does this movie, hew to the vampire, like traditional vampire powers?
So what I realized after, because I'm a big vampire movie fan, and for me, every time you see a vampire movie, they come up with their own rules. They're like, what? Silver doesn't do shit to vampires. You've been watching too many movies, watching or reading too many books or something. To me, this takes off all of the boxes on everything because it shows them, being closer to the Dracula vampire where he turns into a bat, they turn into a wolf, and then it's not clear, but I guess he turns into a mist when he's chasing Ed down the alleyway.
Yeah.
And then they're, showing his super strength where Charlie spends all that time nailing down the window and he just, with one finger, flips the whole thing up. And of course they do the old trope where the vampire grabs the protagonist by the throat and then lifts him off the ground and then turns around and then throws him up
Like
against
they're nothing.
Yeah. She's like, "Hey,
is a classic
just so
move.
everybody knows, I'm super strong." And then
The cross not working unless you're a true believer. I thought that was something that's been kind of used off and on in vampirology. But I like that they used it as like a redemption arc for what's his name?
Roddy McDowell, Peter Vincent.
Yeah.
Two things I noted watching this movie. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Law and Order, but I think this movie soundtrack had the same bass player because it has that same slap bass of like.
That was every soundtrack in the 80s.
This was actually the score was by Brad Fidel, who was
did the
from
Terminator.
Yeah, the whole the synth soundtrack.
And really, I've been waiting all day to bust out that Law and Order style bass of like.
Can you hit us with a Seinfeld real quick?
I wish I could, but all I can do is like.
Yeah. So the movie, Todd, did you have any other thoughts?
I mean, it's to me, it's like what Taylor was saying. It's like it's a fun movie. You know, it's like I interpreted it, and maybe this is not what they intended, but it's a fun like. Goofy horror movie.
Yeah.
Where it's supposed to be not taken seriously.
But you know, and you said that you spent $1 million on the
Effects.
The effects. Like in '85, like I was very impressed, and that's why I understand why they put such a long time on those scenes. But yeah.
I mean, to me, a good Halloween movie is all about like checking out your brain and just going with it and just having a good time and enjoying the effects and enjoying getting into the story. You know, the vampires and all that. You know, the general goofiness of it. You know, you just have to kind of buy into it and go along for the ride. And I think that's true of all of our movies that we've done.
Yep.
So I enjoyed it a lot.
So the film starts out by making fun of vampire films because you have the whole, would you like to come out here on the veranda? And they have the whole, the kissing noises as they're panning to the house. And you're like, what the fuck is going on? And you're like, oh, they're watching a movie. So they're already making fun of, spoofing vampire films of yesteryear and kind of specifically the Hammer vampire films and kind of poking at Peter Vincent's kind of like Peter Cushing.
Every time I hear the word veranda, I think of the Three Amigos, where it's like the
Yes.
girl's like, maybe we could kiss on the veranda. And he's like, the lips are fine.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking the same thing. And then, you have the good old Billy Bob host of a horror TV show, which Grandpa Munster, that actor from that series back in the day, he used to have one of those.
Al Lewis.
Al Lewis, fuck yeah.
Yeah.
So I used to watch those all the time. So as soon as I saw this, I'm like, oh yeah, all right. They're spoofing Peter Cushing as an Al Lewis in this. It was just interesting the way they went with
Very meta.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, the reason Jerry Dandridge is eating apples and fruit all the time.
I noticed that.
Is because, what's his name? Chris Sarandon did his research and was like, ooh, I think my vampire has a little bit of fruit bat in him. So I want to be eating fruit. That's okay. Okay.
That's unexpected.
That's a choice.
Interesting.
Because I meant to ask you when I saw that, like, do vampires eat? Do they need to eat?
Normally, no.
Do they have a stomach?
Or they can, and they just like vomit the food later.
Yeah.
And
I figured
so
it's
I don't
gone.
know. I don't know if this vampire poops or not. You have to ask him.
Yeah.
That's a messy coffin.
Which apples keep you regular. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
But yeah, the other thing, like he's at the very beginning when he's putting the coffin in his basement, you see his henchman like lifting it up, and he's just there with the one hand. So it's just little things.
Doesn't even need the henchman. It seems superfluous.
True.
Just one hand it the entire time.
Yeah.
But I do like that they say, like on the newscast, they're like, all these bodies have been found and they've been decapitated. Which, if they don't want to have their victims turn into vampires, you gotta chop off their head. So I was like, oh, that's a lovely detail.
Yeah.
Also, that lady of the night that showed up at his house was attractive.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they always, a good horror movie always needs boobs.
Oh,
Yes.
You always.
I
have
think
to
it was
get,
more of a it was a butt scene. It was more of a
the
butt.
first one.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
They
Yeah.
need
When she
butts,
gets out of the
too.
taxi and she's
Yeah.
just like, "Is this house?" And he's like, "No, that's the
And
store."
and
She sachets away.
the
You need
boob?
cursing,
Yeah.
gore, and you need nudity.
Yeah. And the nudity scene went on a little too long as well. I mean, I wasn't upset with it, but
Yeah.
yeah, that one kind of went on just a little.
I mean, I would say in the
Camera
80s.
lingered.
yeah,
Yeah, the cameraman lingered. I would say in the 80s, nudity was a trope of horror.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
I like it that Charlie immediately went to the police because every time you see a horror film, you're like, why don't they fucking go get
Yeah.
the cops? Like, why don't they do anything like that?
Yeah.
So he immediately does it, and he later calls them later, and they don't believe him, so they think he's fucking around. The mom in this is a great character, I thought.
yeah,
Yeah.
Judy Brewster,
Heavy sleeper.
sleeper.
yeah,
And then
and thirsty.
let's see.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and then the old the vampire
Yeah.
trope that the hero's girlfriend always looks like the vampire's lost love.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Oh, this is a Bram Stoker
Yeah.
thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, no, that it wasn't in the book, but it's been adapted to like film a lot. That
Okay,
they've
yeah.
done that. And then there's always somebody that lists off the ways to fight the vampire.
The
Yeah.
rules. It's like Gremlins. You got to have rules.
What I thought was interesting is that the vampire gave Charlie an out to forget about him. 'Cause
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I can kill you now, or you could just forget about me. You have a choice that I never had.
very
Forget about me.
Yeah.
I'll leave you alone.
That was a cool scene.
Very
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah,
Very nice of him.
Yeah.
Charlie fucked that up.
yeah.
And then, when he finally goes to talk to Peter Vincent to try and get his help, they make film commentary on films of the day that all teenagers want to watch is demented madmen running around in ski masks, hacking up young virgins, which I'm guessing is mostly like Jason and
Yeah.
Friday the 13th.
Everything
all
in
those.
that time period.
Yep.
Charlie has a lot of people that stare at him intensely before driving away. That like look a little too long. It happens
Yeah.
at least 3 times, but there's
It's the Diddlin' eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
the
telling you,
first-
diddle and eyes were a thing in
Everyone's
the
got the
80s.
guy.
Diddlin' eyes.
Yeah.
police chief guy wasn't in this movie for long, but he wanted to make sure that his face was in there.
Yeah.
And he was the dude that was, I think, one of the air traffic controllers in Die Hard 2.
Die Hard
He
2.
was.
Yep, he was. Yep.
Yeah.
It was interesting. The Jerry Dandridge had all the cuckoo clocks in his house to remind him, when it was
o'clock
time
on the
to
dot.
wake up.
That was super cool.
Which has to
Go
get
sleep
really
whenever
loud.
that can't work well with like daylight saving time. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why he's got the henchman to go adjust all the
Just
clocks.
all the clocks.
Turn them all.
He will spring forward.
It's time to fall back.
My other nerdery, I like that they allude to his like super senses and hearing all the time because and you never see a good vampire doing good coffin maintenance. He and Billy are down in the basement, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, I think she just woke up to try and kill Charlie," and then he looks up again and was like, "Oh, I think we have a guest." But they're with their little shovels and trowels, like putting together their coffin.
Did
I was
they
like,
say
"That's
that
so
his
cute."
coffin locks from the inside?
I think so because I think
That's nifty.
Peter Vincent had to hack it because mostly vampires can turn into mist and just hop in their coffin.
Sure.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Classic move.
Yeah.
You know, turn it
Let's
into
see.
mist.
Oh yeah, I already said vampire dances make your hair sexier. That's
Yeah.
coffin maintenance. And then last thing I had in my notes was Peter Vincent after he kills Evil Ed grabs the stake and then takes it out, and then oftentimes you have to leave the stake in a vampire to then like cut off their head, do whatever else. But he removed it, and then at the end you saw the eyes in the house next door, and you hear "Are you so cool, Brewster?" I'm just saying, Evil Ed probably still alive.
Yeah.
Came back.
Unfortunately.
But if you kill the parent vampire, doesn't that?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Normally,
It
yeah,
should. It's like the Night King in Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
You know?
yeah.
It's also, I think that's also werewolf lore. Is you have to kill the werewolf that infected you
Yeah.
to defect yourself.
Ooh. Two things for me. I just now put together in my brain that Peter Vincent is a play on Peter Cushing and Vincent
Yes.
Price. I'm a little slow
Yeah.
on the uptake on that one.
Vincent Price was
Vincent
originally
Price,
supposed to
yeah.
play this role.
Yeah.
Oh, and the last thing I forgot is this is clearly a takeoff of Alfred Hitchcock Rear Window, where the dude gets his leg broken and is stuck looking out
Yeah.
the window, sees a murder happen next door or thinks, and then is trying to convince everybody. So they just took that nugget and they're like, what if the murderer was a vampire?
Vampire.
Boom, go.
Also, I just lost my I think. Am I the only one? I know this is an early viral video, but every time I heard Charlie's name, that I thought, Charlie,
Bit my
come
finger?
to Candy Mountain, Charlie. The freaking.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The unicorns.
Yes,
Oh, I was thinking of Charlie Bit My Finger.
that too.
Llamas?
But I was thinking of the Candy Mountain.
llamas?
So I know
Yeah.
that might have been just me, but I heard that throughout that entire movie. Every time his name was mentioned, like Charlie.
Also, one of the puppets in this was originally going to be used in Ghostbusters, the first Ghostbusters film. But and I thought it was a little like Evil Amy's like fucking Jaws face near the end. But I guess that wasn't it. It was something about the bat that he turns into. Or the bat at the
cool,
end,
too.
the skeleton bat that he
Oh,
turns
it's like
into.
attacking him.
Yeah. Or the skeleton bat that he's exploding at the end, which that was cool. The green flame,
Yeah.
by the way, reminded me of Game of Thrones, Wildfire.
Yeah,
Good shit.
yeah. Are we ever going to be able to go back and watch Game of Thrones again?
No.
No.
No, you can watch the Battle of Blackwater Bay. You can watch the Battle of Hardhome. You can watch the wagon train,
The Battle of the Bastards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a horse pile up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be a good band name.
Horse pilot.
Horse pile up.
So scale of 1 to 10, what do we give Fright Night? We'll start with Sean.
7? I grade horror movies on a different scale than other movies.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just grade this against everything else, it's like probably a 5.5. But it's a 7. It's a horror movie.
Yeah.
It's fun. Turn your brain off.
Yeah.
For me, as a vampire film, this is like 9.5. Normal, I would say a solid 7. Yeah. It again, it's like Tremors for me. It's no Shakespeare, but I fucking love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, not seeing this maybe twice, first time having no idea, 7 easily. If not for me, because I thought it was just a fun film that I could easily rewatch.
Yeah.
Maybe even a 7.5. It was like
think so
because,
too.
but also just from where when it was done, and like honestly, I think 7.5. Fuck
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
I think so
it
too.
was a good. Yeah.
I think it's 7.5.
Yeah.
Because it's like, obviously, like you said, it's like Halloween movies aren't going to be Shakespeare. But
Exactly. Yeah.
That's just sheer, straightforward entertainment value. It's that ability to just tune into it and have fun.
It had everything.
And
Yeah.
Fright Night does that.
And Evil Ed, later in life, I think went on to star in a couple porns.
Good for him.
Did he?
Yeah.
With that voice?
Well,
Wow.
you're not exactly using your voice for that.
Yeah.
And that's not how the actor actually sounds all the time.
You would hope not.
Yeah.
Sweet Jesus.
Oh,
Can you imagine though?
Yeah.
God. Yeah.
Yeah, because that was a fork going down a chalkboard.
and
Yeah.
Christopher Mintz-Plasse in the remake of this played Evil Ed in that one, and Anton Yelchin played Charlie Brewster.
Charlie. And Colin Farrell did a great job, I thought, as the Christopher, and that's a good casting choice.
And Toni Collette was the mom in that. It was, and Imogen Poots was Amy. I think the first film I saw her. So, and David Tennant was Peter Vincent.
Yeah. That's a great cast.
Yeah, it was very well cast. It was not
cast.
as great as the original.
Can't
it
touch
just
the
wasn't.
nostalgia.
Yeah, it relied way too much on CGI at the time, and I mean, it was written by one of the writers for Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And one of the interesting things was they were like, oh, well, if, the vampire can't come inside your house if you don't invite him. And instead, the vampire just went and cut the gas line and then set it on fire and blew up the house, and they had to run outside.
Yeah.
But the problem with the remake was they set it in a small suburban town near Vegas. And so it was just a small little area. It didn't really, the thing that was great about this film is that there were only really a few sets, and it mostly took place on Charlie's block. Like you had some little scene at the school and one at a restaurant
club.
they want to, the club, but mostly it was at his house or
Where do
next
they
door.
live that their house is in a suburban area, and then you go not that long ago and you're like, oh, you're in an alley in the middle of a city. You're in a club now. What?
That's called a
where
studio
are you?
backlot.
Also, Jerry had a sweet Jeep, and Charlie's little red and gray painted
Mustang?
car.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet looking
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
was a great mustache.
That's a great use of primer, to keep those keep that rust out.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, this has been another episode of Cinemavino. This is continuing our Halloween series.
Last thing I will say,
sorry, I was gonna laugh.
Fright Night Part 2 is available on YouTube in Blu-ray quality in full. So,
Are there commercials?
no, YouTube.
Good.
Wait, YouTube has commercials.
Oh, it's I think it's illegally on YouTube, so no commercials.
I will touch in here that we are drinking delicious beer.
Oh,
for
yeah.
this podcast. This is an Imperial IPA by Rogue. This is called the Colossal Clod. I've always loved Rogue beers. Sometimes I feel like they slip under the radar. People don't talk about Rogue enough. I mean, the Dead Guy gets some attention, but they have a lot of really good beers. They are out of Oregon. And so my wife and I have been up there and sampled their beers, and it's just good stuff. This is a big, brawny, hoppy IPA. 75 IBUs, 8.2% alcohol by volume. So it's a big, fun IPA. But it does have a what appears to be a Loch Ness monster on the can. So it kind of fits our monster theme, kind of fits our Halloween. So
I think it's more of a sea serpent.
well, yes.
What? Be sure to drink your Ovaltine on a crummy commercial.
I was looking around for wines that fit Halloween, but I think some of the most Halloween themed things I found were beer. Beer seemed to have a lot more monsters and stuff on the cans and bottles. So I decided to go with the beer for this time. So just good times by all. Anyway, tune in next time. We are going to talk about 13 Ghosts, the 2001 remake. That's going to be the next thing with Tony Shalhoub
Shalhoub.
Sharon Elizabeth,
and Shannon Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Really an all-star cast.
Matthew Lillard.
All-star cast.
Yeah. And Matthew Lillard.
The guy that played Salieri as well.
Exactly. So we will see you guys next time.
Bye.
Not with a bang, but with a whimper.
You can listen, rate, and subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are available. Our website is at cinemavino.net, and reviews of these movies can be found at toddwoffordmovies.com.
You can listen, rate, and subscribe at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere podcasts are available. At toddwoffordmovies.com.